I'm Amy Kisser, I'm at QEB. I was a pupil in 2009 and I've been a tenant since October 2010. I practice exclusively in family law and predominantly within that with financial remedies or financial consequences after divorce or other relationship breakdown. And I'm also our pupillage secretary, so I know a little bit about pupillage.
I'm Andrea Watts, I'm at 1 King's Bench Walk Chambers. I did my pupillage there in 2006 and I've been a tenant there ever since. I do a very broad range of family work, so children work, money work, divorce work, pretty much anything. And if you've got a squeezy barrister, then that's from me.
Hi, I'm Matthew Brunsdon-Tully. I'm a barrister at 1 Hare Court. As a Chambers, we tend to focus on financial remedies work after divorce. I actually have quite a mixed practice. I do about 2/3 money work, as we call it, and 1/3 children work. I don't do any publicly funded or public child work, but I do quite a lot of private law children work. We also do a certain amount of property work, so I do some talata, but we are exclusively family lawyers.
Hi, I'm Mark Jarman at 4 Paper Buildings. I did pupillage quite a long time ago now. I'm head of pupillage at 4 Paper Buildings, and we of course do exclusively family law. My own practice is international movement of children and child abduction.
I think the idea is I'm going to give you a very general overview of why I'm at the bar and why I like family law and what skills perhaps you need to succeed at the family bar, and then we'll take some questions, and if my colleagues on the panel want to jump in and correct me on anything, I'm sure they will. First of all, why I'm at the bar and why most of us are at the bar. Many reasons. One of the big ones, of course, is that you're self-employed, so you get to manage your own time. If you want to do your work late at night or early in the morning, you can do it that way, and you are essentially on your own. Having said that, we're all members of Chambers. In my Chambers, I think there's 54 tenants at the moment, and you are very much part of a team, and there is a certain element of camaraderie in Chambers, and I know that despite being self-employed and dealing with my own cases, I can go and knock on the door of any member of my Chambers and run cases past them, and we do work as a team and we do sell ourselves as a team. So even though you're not perhaps in a law firm under a particular name, you are in a Chambers under the name of that Chambers, and you work together to promote your Chambers and to prepare your cases. Of course, one of the biggest things that you'll all be interested in if you want to go to the bar is advocacy. If you want to go to the family bar, there is a great scope for doing a lot of advocacy work as opposed to other types of law that you may practice in. But it's not just about advocacy. In criminal law, of course, you'll be doing a huge amount of advocacy, but with family work, a lot of the work is done outside of court in conference rooms and before you even get to court. So there's a huge focus on negotiations outside before you even get into the courtroom. At the bar, you are a specialist in not only advocacy but in advisory work. So you are advising clients on paper and in person when you get to court. And you have the time to do that. And one of the real benefits of being at the bar, rather than being a solicitor in a solicitor's firm, is that you have the time to do research and you have the time to really think these things through and advise your clients properly without having clients constantly ringing you up and wanting to come in and see you. You are somewhat separated from all that, which is a big attraction, especially once you start getting difficult clients and you realise you can get away from them. In respect of family work, for me, like many of you that I've spoken to today, I got into family law when I was at university. I studied it as a module. I thought it was fascinating. When I left university, I did a year as a legal secretary in a family law firm. I was being sent to court all the time, and I was watching advocates in court thinking, I can do that, and I really want to. One of the main, I suppose, personality traits that I have that makes me interested in family work is that I'm incredibly nosy. And I do like knowing other people's business, and you get to learn a lot about people and how they tick. And in the last 6 years, I have only ever had one client that said to me, actually, Andrea, I feel a bit uncomfortable telling you all this personal information about me. She still went on to tell me all that personal information, but she felt very uncomfortable doing so. Everyone else pretty much will pour their hearts out to you. And you get to see all walks of life. There is such a variety at the family bar. One day you could be representing some nice businessman who's got quite a lot of money stashed away that he's trying to hide from his soon-to-be ex-wife.
Nice businessman?
Sometimes they're nice. Sometimes they're nice. And you're simply dealing with the breakdown of a relationship and trying to help both parties to move on. The next day you could be representing a 15-year-old mother of a small baby who might be involved in drugs, violence, what have you, and she's about to have her small child removed from her care by the local authority. So you really do get to meet all kinds of people and see all that kind of work. In terms of the types of work that you would do, there really is a mixed bag. You would be doing divorce work. That can range from prenuptial agreement work before marriages, annulment cases. It's not just divorce itself. You've got the financial matters that come following a divorce. You've got talata cases involving trusts of family homes if you've got couples who aren't married but are separating. You've got private children cases, which involves disputes between parents as to where little Jimmy's going to live and how often he's going to see the other parent. And you've got public children cases, which involves the local authority usually getting involved to remove a child potentially from the care of his family, potentially leading to adoption, special guardianship, or possibly reunification with the parents. You've got international child abduction work, which is absolutely fascinating work, all sorts of international work. You've got domestic violence matters, so seeking injunctions against one party to a relationship, and perhaps seeking to remove one party to the relationship from the family home. So there really is a great range of work in family law.
Just touching on that, certainly in what we do predominantly matrimonial finance, there's also the factor that there are often, for example, tax issues that arise in relation to disposal of assets on divorce. So you need to be able to sort of dip your hand into tax law a little bit. I've got a case just last week where there was a difficulty in relation to a company. The husband was saying that he had, prior to the marriage, declared on trust his half share of the family home for the benefit of his company, but he only produced the deed of trust on the final day of the trial, and so you have difficult issues of sham trusts, you have difficult issues of company law. You need to be flexible. Family lawyers are often described by other lawyers in other divisions as not necessarily being lawyers at all, but actually you do need to be a good lawyer and able to dip your hand into areas of law that you might not otherwise have come across. So I think that's quite an important skill to bear in mind. One of the great attractions of doing family law is that you do get to touch on other areas of law, perhaps that you might not otherwise have come across, but without having to necessarily know all about it. You're able to sort of dip into quite niche, quite interesting little vignettes.
It's also about not just being a lawyer. Part of the job is actually being a part-time psychologist, part-time social worker, part-time befriender. You're coming into people's lives at a time of emergency, and you have to deal with them in a rational and professional way, but they're looking to you for the answer to all their problems, and you may not be able to provide that answer, but part of the skills of being a family lawyer is developing those other outside skills, and it's a very important part of the job. Can I just ask how many of you have actually been into a family law chambers? You just have a show of hands. Okay, so probably about 20% of you. If you're applying to come to the bar, it is very important that you understand what you're coming into. And the only way you're going to be able to do that is by spending some time in family chambers. So you need to be applying for mini-pupillages. You need to be spending some time around barristers, understanding what the job is. Because when you're being interviewed for a job, when you're being interviewed for pupillage, if you have no concept of what it's about and how it works, then you're probably not going to come over as someone who's very committed, very dedicated, and very understanding of what the role of a family barrister is. So my advice to you all, if you haven't already organised mini-pupillages, is to apply to, we represent the 4 biggest family chambers in London. There are of course a number of other chambers that do family law. There's also a number of provincial chambers. Go and spend a week in a family chambers, spend some time with family barristers, and understand what the job is actually about.
Also know that it's not just about academics. I think a misconception about the bar is that it's, you know, sort of only people with first class degrees from Oxford and Cambridge.
That's only your chambers though, isn't it?
Well, I
it's not our chambers.
That's not the case. The focus is on advocacy. Of course, it's important. You need to be relatively intelligent, but that's not the only thing that's important. We have a particular emphasis on advocacy, people who have done, for example, mooting, debating, things like that. And if you don't feel as if your CV is perhaps as stellar as other people that you feel you're competing against, that's not going to disqualify you from applying to even my chambers, but all the family chambers, because actually we have a real emphasis on advocacy. You're in court at least 2 days a week, usually 3 or 4 days a week, and you need to be able to hold your own in court, rather than necessarily pouring through grey and grey on land law.
And we recognise that you're all coming through university, you're all coming through law school or bar school, and that you don't have those kind of experiences which other people may have. They may have been doing legal work for 10 years before they come to the bar. What we're looking for is potential. And you have to demonstrate to us what your potential is. So if your application simply says, I went to university, I've got a 2-1 degree, I've got 17 A stars at GCSE, you are going to be part of a cohort where everybody's got the same qualifications. And you have to demonstrate to us what it is in you that wants you to be a barrister, what is attractive to us as a chambers, and what potential you have to demonstrate how you're going to be a good advocate, how you're going to be a good lawyer. And that's a lot of outside stuff, so through work, legal advice centres, mooting, all those are demonstrators to us of what your potential is, and that's what you need to be doing.
Building on from what Mark was saying about mini-pupillages as well, they are also really important because the practice of law is extremely different from the theory of law. I thought I wanted to be a criminal lawyer. I was completely convinced, having studied at university. I did 3 mini-pupillages and thought, oh dear God, this is not what I want to do with my life, and completely did an about turn and ended up doing family law and absolutely love it. But you will not know just from reading textbooks whether or not you want to do that area of law unless you go and spend time in the different chambers. The other thing is it's really important to see the types of work the chambers that you're interested in do, because we all do probably quite different things on a day-to-day basis, although we are all family lawyers. So if you're particularly interested in children work, you might want to go and check that that is what you're interested in and spend some time seeing that work in practice. Equally, if you think you're interested in finance work, you need to see that in practice because it's very different to what you learn from a textbook. And if you're lucky enough to be offered more than one pupillage, which some people are, although we are all in the top family chambers, internally chambers work very, very differently. So that our experiences are very different to each other on the basis of the chambers we operate from. So although we might do similar work at times, you will want to know what sort of environment you want to spend your next, probably the rest of your life in, because the difference between being a barrister and everything else is once you get offered a tenancy, it's pretty much a job for life unless you can do something completely awful. And so you want to know if these are the sorts of people you want to spend the next 40 years with.
In terms of your applications, my chambers aren't part of the gateway at the present time, and we have a unique and dedicated application for our chambers. But you need to spend some time doing your application and making sure you get it right, because it is your only opportunity to put forward yourself, sell yourself to potential chambers. And let me just make it clear to you all that this isn't a recruitment exercise which is done by dedicated professionals. It's done by barristers, all right, who are not specialists. Okay, they like to think they are, but they are, they're doing their best. But they're also doing their best at the end of their busy day, where they've got their own practice and their own stresses. So small things like typographical errors, or not answering the question, or not obeying the rules of the application, simply mean that you're going to be put to the bottom of the queue very, very quickly, and your application isn't going to proceed. And you need to think very carefully about what you write. Read it through, get somebody else to look at it. Make sure it makes sense. Yeah? Make sure it's grammatically correct. All those issues, because those are small issues which are going to impact dramatically on your chances of progressing. Genuinely, this is a genuine story. We ask a very simple question: why do you want to be a barrister? All right? One of the answers we had in our application started, I find this very difficult to put into words. that's not a great start if you want to be a barrister. Do you know? So please spend some time on it, and my real advice would be get somebody else to look at your application, to go through it and get some feedback on how you think you put yourself across.
From what Mark was saying as well, we are interviewing people to be barristers, to be advocates. And in family law, we do both oral advocacy, often on a day in, day out basis in court, but also written advocacy. A lot of what we do now is written. So if you cannot sell yourself in writing, that's the first thing we are looking at, how well you can sell yourself to us. Because when we send you to court, you'll be selling your case to the judge. So it's really, really important to be an advocate of yourself when you're doing your application form.
I've been asked to talk a little bit as well about lifestyle implications and what sort of personality you might need to get by at the family bar. And I think that's quite important because a lot of people don't realise just how tough it is. On a day-to-day basis, I'm sure it's true of all of us, you have no routine. It's incredibly hard work. You can't make plans during the week because you just don't know if you're going to be able to stick to them. I've been having a think about what I did this week, and to be honest, when I started thinking about it, I couldn't remember what I'd done this week. It turns out Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I was supposed to be in court. Those 3 hearings all disappeared for various reasons, so I was in chambers. On Monday, I found myself writing some lectures and arranging some lectures with different solicitors, which I'm sure they'll be fascinated by. On Tuesday, I was preparing a 5-day case in care proceedings, which starts this week. On Wednesday, I was preparing a 2-day case, which started then on Thursday, and because I didn't have all the papers and I didn't get all the papers until quite late, and I was still reading quite late at night, Thursday morning I got up at 4 o'clock, did a few more hours work, knocked out a document, filled up my suitcase with 4-lever arch files of papers and dragged myself to Guildford, where I then did a full day in court and then came back, answered all my emails, went to Chambers tea as well, that was nice, we had cake.
I'm just impressed you answered your emails.
Yeah.
I struggle with that.
And then got myself home, went straight to bed, got up Friday morning again and went back down to Guildford for another full day. It is exhausting, and you hear stories of the nightmare late night returns. It's all true. It's not uncommon to have a phone call at sort of 7, 8 o'clock at night from the clerks saying such and such has been taken ill, or we've got some papers come in from another chambers, are you able to do it? And you get those papers and you get on and do it. And sometimes the papers can be big and there's a lot of work to do, and you're staying up late and you're getting up early in the morning.
You need to be durable. You do need to be durable.
I think the key thing is stamina. You do really need it. Just to be able to lug all your stuff around, I think you need a huge amount of stamina just to get by in the job.
Your diet's not going to be great sometimes as well. You know, you can go I lived off Domino's pizza, I think, the week before last. You know, you will have to get used to going in at sometimes 4 o'clock in the morning. I think the earliest I've done, actually not the earliest I've done, I've worked through the night for a case once. But, you know, I've been up at 3 or 4. I've recently moved so that I'm within 10 minutes walk of Chambers. How sad is that? Just so that I can get in quickly.
Is that Chambers or Domino's Pizza?
Actually, it's actually halfway between Chambers and Domino's Pizza, so I can go either way.
Yeah.
I don't think Domino's Pizza's open at 3 or 4 in the morning, unfortunately. Right. I think it shuts at 11:30. It's on Great Queen Street. So, you know, you really have to be quite durable, and if you're not in at that time of the morning, it's usually because you've worked until 10 or 11 o'clock at night the night before. It's not like that all the time, and the flip side of that is that because you're self-employed, you're able to take off a few days or weeks at a time if you really want to. That said, I took off last week to go to Thailand, ended up cancelling my flights and getting my money back because I had to do written submissions in a case that didn't finish the week before, and ended up getting a whole load of papers for a trial that I've got coming up next week, which I didn't anticipate was going to be quite so difficult. So the holiday got cancelled. So my week off turned into a week of sitting in the Supreme Court watching Pressed and writing my written submissions, which were on quite a similar point. So, but the flip side is that you can take off time, you know, usually during the summer months or at other times when you really need to. And personally, I'm willing to take the hit on the late nights and early mornings so that I can take off the longer periods of time to actually do the things that I want to do with my life. But I don't think that's for everyone. You need to work out whether you're the kind of individual who's able to live a life like that. And you've got to have supportive friends because they will get let down quite a lot.
So it's actually a terrible career. Oh, don't do it. Don't do it. But it is tremendously varied. It is tremendously exciting. Of course, it's hard work, but anything that you guys are doing at the moment is equally as hard. And the process is very hard, and we recognise that. But you can improve your chances, and part of that is preparation, spending some time with barristers, and putting yourself about a bit, doing something a bit out of the ordinary, which is very important.
And it is worth it. The money's pretty good. The
It is in your
lifestyle's pretty
chambers, yeah.
so bad in
Tommy
yours.
is a very matrimonial finance is very well paid, but there's other areas which are not well paid. But the money isn't really the main attraction, of course, to coming to the bar, and the bar faces a number of challenges at the moment. So your biggest challenge at the moment is simply getting a pupillage, and if that happens, then of course you're part of the way there.
There's nothing like the feeling of winning a trial, particularly in circumstances where the merit's on your side. It is a great feeling, it's a great rush to know that you've spent however many days in court and you've managed to persuade a judge through sheer hard work and ingenuity, hopefully a little bit, that you were right or your client was right. And that's a real thrill, and that's not something that you can get from any other profession.
And it's not just about winning, and I don't say that because I lose all the time, but one of the things I find most rewarding is the fact that you can be dealing with very, very vulnerable people, often delivering pretty bad news, advising them to do things that instinctively they would not want to do. And if you can explain to them exactly what is going to happen, guide them through the process and make sure that they understand that, even if the outcome isn't what they want, you feel that you've given them the best possible opportunity to understand what's going on around them and have their say.
They haven't come out traumatised by the process. That's a nice feeling as well.
They haven't sacked you. Yeah.